All right, everyone. I'm going to go over the solutions to the study guide here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Um, One thing, I'm not going to go, I'm into intense detail of each problem, but I will solve every problem and hopefully it's useful to you. But if you have extra questions, ask your teacher. All right, let's dive in. So, first question, we just need to be able to solve equations. This is a general skill you need to have for the rest of your math career. What is the value of v? Remember, variables represent unknown numbers. So there is some number for v that makes this equation true. My goal is to figure out what it is. I'm going to start by, I have variables on both sides, right? I have a 6v here and a 3v here. One of our first steps to solve is to make it so we only have variables on one side. And so I need to eliminate either this 6v or this 3v. I'm going to choose to get rid of this positive 3v here. And to get rid of a positive 3v, I have to do the opposite of a positive 3v, which is a minus 3v. And so I'm going to do that to both sides. Here, these cancel, and on this side, I'm only left with 10 equals 6v minus 3v is 3v, and I didn't use the negative 5, so I drop it down. And so I'm kind of immediately able to change this into just a regular two-step equation. I need to get this v right here by itself. To do that, I need to get rid of this constant, the constant of a minus 5. I add 5 to each side. I get 15 equals 3v. Scroll down a little bit here. And so my last step, I need to divide to get rid of this multiplication. I have a coefficient here. Coefficients mean multiplication. Divide each side by 3. These cancel. And for number 1, we get v is equal to 5. All right. Let's go to number 2 now. Let me move myself out of the way here. I have what is the value of b? I only have a variable on one side this time, but I do need to start with some distribution. Parentheses tells me I need to multiply, so I'm going to do negative 2 times 4b. That is negative 8b. And I need to do negative 2 times 5. That's negative 10. All right, I had to pause real quick. So sorry if this is a little discontinuous. So I distribute negative 8b, get negative 10 here, equal to 20. And again, now I did it my step, I distributed. I have a two-step equation. We got to be able to solve two-step equations in Algebra 1. So if you need help with this, please let me know. To get rid of a minus 10, you add 10. You get negative b equals 20 plus 10 is 30. And when kids were working on this in class, kids kept calling me over, oh, I think I did something wrong. No, you need to be confident. We divide each side by negative 8. And these cancel. And yeah, this doesn't simplify, or this doesn't come out to a perfect number. So you can just leave your final answer as a fraction, 30 over negative 8. If you're in the business of simplifying fractions, this is 15 over negative 4. Okay, I would accept either of these answers as correct on an assessment. All right, number 3. Let me zoom back out a little bit. Okay. So we have a chart here. The graph shows the relationship between baseball sold and earnings for a salesman. So we have the earnings on the y-axis and the baseball sold on the x-axis. What is it asking us to do? Create a model that represents the relationship. So a model is just an equation. I know that this is a linear equation because this is a straight line on the graph. Straight lines are always linear. And so I'm going to use the equation y equals mx plus b. And from here, it's just about filling this in so that I have the parts in the right place. And so the b is where we begin. And so you can see that this salesman, they start at $10. When they've sold 0 baseballs, they still have $10 in earnings. And so I'm going to fill that in. This is a plus 10 right here. And so every linear function has two parts, where we start and how much we're changing by. So I need to figure out how much I'm changing by here. So we need to look at the slope. Slope m is change in y over the change in x. All right, so let's look at the slope. I have a point here. I also have a point here, but I can't tell where this is at on the y-axis. So I'm going to highlight these 2 points, right? So from here, from this point to this point, I go up 10. I go up from 10 to 20. Yes, it's only up 1 tick mark, but we have to look at what we're counting by. So we change vertically by 10. Change in y. The x changes by 1, 2. So what we're seeing here is if you sell 2 baseballs, you increase your earnings by $10. How much is that for 1 baseball? It's 5. So one baseball, every baseball you sell, you get $5. So that's what we're learning from this graph. So every baseball, it's $5 per baseball. So it's 5B. I'm going to use B for baseball. And this is all equal to their earnings or their money. So let's use the dollar sign here. So we have a model now that shows the relationship here. The amount of their money, their earnings, is equal to 5 times the amount of baseballs they sell plus 10. So if they sell 1 baseball, they get 5 times 1 is 5 plus 10, they get $15. If they sell 2 baseballs, they get 5 times 2 plus 10 is $20. And you can see that on the graph, right? If they sell 2 baseballs, they get $20. So these graph and equation are just showing the same thing differently. All right, so let's read the next question. How many baseballs does a salesman need to sell if they want to buy a bat for $100? Well, it's telling me that they need $100. This money sign is no longer an unknown. Variables represent unknown, so we use the dollar symbol to represent an unknown amount of money. Now I know it's $100. So I'm going to plug in or substitute 100 into the dollar sign and rewrite the equation as 100 equals 5b plus 10. And so now my only unknown is b, the amount of baseballs. That's the question, right? How many baseballs does it take? So I need to solve for b. That's the purpose here. Again, it's just a 2-step equation. I'm going to go through it quickly. Assume you know how to do it. Subtract 10 from each side. 90 equals 5b. Divide each side by 5, and you get b is equal to 18. All right. That's number 3. Let's go over to number 4. Again, let me zoom out a tiny bit more. We have a graph. This time, we don't know what the graph is about. It's just a graph on a regular XY coordinate plane. It says create an equation that represents the graph. All right, so we need to create an equation. Again, I know this is a linear function. It's a straight line. So I'm going to use the equation. I'll write over here. Y equals mx plus b. And the b is the y-intercept. It's where I cross the y-axis. So I'm going to go to the y-axis and look. Where do I cross it? It's right here. And while there's not points here, I can see that's at a 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the y-intercept, or b, is 1. And now I need the slope, the rate of change. Remember, m, or slope, or rate of change, whatever you want to call it, is equal to delta y over delta x. So I need to find another point. There's one right here. How do I move from this point to this point vertically? How much do I change on the y? I go up 1, 2. So the change in y is 2. And how many to go over? I know it's a little sloppy. I go over 1. So the slope is 2 over 1. If I want to simplify that, 2 divided by 1 is just 2. So the slope is 2. And drop down my y and x. And so this is the answer here. The equation that goes with this graph is y equals 2x plus 1. If you graph the line, you go into a graphing calculator and say graph y equals 2x plus 1, it's going to do this exactly. All right, let me just erase that. I'll rewrite it real quick right here. Y equals 2x plus 1. So I said, what is a possible story that could be represented by this graph? Again, it takes understanding what a linear function is. A linear function has a beginning and a rate of change. And so this begins at positive 1, and it's changing by 2. So any story could work here. I could say, Bob has $1. He gets $2 per hour. All right? It's the same thing as shown in the graph. Something starts at 1, it's changing by 2. Something starts at 1, it's changing by 2. shown in the equation. In the story, something starts at 1, Bob has $1, she's changing by 2. They all show the same thing, just in a different format. You could also make a table. All right, number 5. Miss Rivera has a bakery and starts with starts with 20 customers. She gains 5 new customers every week. Which model best represents the relationship? So she gets the same amount of customers every week. It's a constant rate of change. I know it's linear. So I could do it like this. I could say y equals mx plus b. I could say she begins at 20 and she's getting 5 customers per week. So 5w plus 20 is all equal to her amount of customers. So this is an equation I could write, right? She begins at 20, so I fill in a 20 for b. The rate of change is 5, so I change in a 5 for m, 5 per week, so w goes here. This all equals her amount of customers. But I don't see that equation here. Well, what if I told you that c is the exact same equation? The order of addition does not matter. So it doesn't matter if it's 20 plus 5w or 5w plus 20. They're the same thing. Think about it like this. What's 5 plus 4? That's 9. What's 4 plus 5? That's 9. The order of addition doesn't matter. And so what I want you to understand is that y equals mx plus b can technically also be written as y equals b plus mx. All right, they're the same thing. The order does not matter, and please don't let that trick you. That's just something really simple. All right, a garden soil moisture is decreasing during a hot summer. The equation below represents the amount of moisture, the moisture level, and the days passed. M equals negative 5d plus 50. How long will it take for the garden to completely dry up? You need to know what this term dry up means. You need to pay attention in your English classes so you know terminology. So what does it mean to dry up? It means that there is no more moisture left. If there is no moisture left, what number represents that? 0. So there is 0 moisture. If there is 0 moisture, I need to plug in a 0 to m. 0 equals negative 5d plus 50. Now I just solve this two-step equation. Subtract 50 from each side. You get negative 50 equals negative 5d. Divide each side by negative 5. I'm just going to write the answer over here. D is equal to 10. It'll take 10 days for this to dry up. And you could actually reason through this without writing out the math as long as you understood what this equation is telling you. It starts at 50, right? That's what this equation is telling me. And it goes down 5 per day. So if you start at 50 and you go down 5 per day, it's going to take you 10 days to run out. All right, write a story that could represent this equation, y equals 3x plus 10. Again, you need to understand linear relationships. This is saying something begins at 10, the constant is 10, and it's changing by 3. Anything that begins at 3 begins at 10 has a constant rate of change of 3 would fit this story. So I could say a dog is 10 pounds, he gains 3 pounds per day. A plant is 10 inches tall, it grows 3 inches per week. I'm not even going to write anything down for this, actually. Bill has $10, he gets $3 an hour. Something simple like that. Okay, so maybe try to come up with your own. So when I look at number 8, write a story that can represent by this equation. Well, where does this start? This starts at negative 10. The constant is negative 10, and it's going down by 2. If something starts in the negatives, I could say, again, I'm not going to write anything down. I could say, lovely Anna is 10 feet below ground. She goes down 2 feet every minute. And so she starts below ground, negative 10, and she's going down, negative 2 feet per minute. I could say Mr. Golden has $10 in debt. He loses $2 more every day. Okay? All right. Brings us to number 9. We're not going to do 11 and 12. So just these 10. Samantha is practicing piano. The equation below represents a relationship between the number of days past D and the total minutes she has practiced. What does the plus 45 represent? So we have this equation, M equals 15D plus 45. You have to be able to recognize that the constant, B, is where we begin, where we start. And so what does the plus 45 mean in this? Well, in terms of her practicing piano, it means She's already practiced for 45 minutes. So that's what it means. Again, I'm not going to write this. I'll write it. She has already practiced. I don't know why I wrote this down. 45 minutes. That's what that means. She began at a practicing of 45 minutes before the equation even started. It doesn't ask for this, but what this really tells us is she's practicing 15 minutes per day, right? 15D, 15 minutes per day. All right, last one. Jared is saving for a new bike. The equation below represents a relationship between the number of weeks past W and his total savings S. What does a 25 mean? Well, this 25 is a coefficient to W. And so 25W, so that means 25 per week, right? He's saving $25 per week. He starts at 100, that's what this 100 means. He's saving 25 per week. Don't overcomplicate this. Every linear function, where did you start? How much are you changing by? All right, so I'm not going to write that down. Hopefully you understood that. And that's the end of the video. Good luck on your assessment tomorrow.